Let's get to that Champions League draw, though. Andy watched it for us, and we can take you through each of the groups. Let's start with Group A. Manchester United in this group, Andy. What do you think?
Very palatable, I would say. Now, of course, Bayern are the big name in there, the pot one team. But despite Harry Kane going there and Harry Kane facing the team that he could have easily ended up playing for, as a lot of Manchester United fans would have loved to see, I think you look at where Bayern are, and the Kane signing covers a multitude of sins, really. Obviously, he adds a huge amount in terms of goal scoring, in terms of what he creates. But they've still got a huge problem in midfield. They need that number 6, as we've been hearing earlier in the show. They're bedding down a new defence. They're waiting for Manuel Neuer to come back in goal. That's an issue. Copenhagen, very experienced in this level of competition, of course. Came through the qualifiers against Rakov, who they would be expected to beat, the Polish champions. Some experienced players in that team. Nevertheless, something United will be very happy with. Galatasaray are the great unreadable of this group, really, as a pot 4 team. Now, they've been very active in the transfer market this summer, permanently signing Mauro Icardi. And really, it's him that saved them, because they look well off the pace in the playoff round against Molde, of course, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer fame, the Norwegian champions. Molde could have beaten them in those games, and Galatasaray kept it nervous right until the end. But that little bit of individual quality made the difference. Now, it'll be interesting to see how the fixtures pan out, because I think once you get to that point in October, when Zaha's properly fit, when Ziyech is properly fit, they could be a really interesting team to watch. It'll be chaotic, at least.
But great. All right, that's Group A. Let's have a look at Group B then. Here's Group B, Arsenal's group. Now, that looks like Arsenal might fancy that.
He's suppressing a smile there. I mean, you can see that, can't you? Sevilla are the pot 1 team that you want. Of course, we know they've got an incredible history in UEFA club competition. Won the Europa League again. You know, that could be any year, really.
Feels like there's a but coming here, Andy.
There is a but. And a lot of it is down to Monchi, the now sporting director of Aston Villa. Had a bad couple of years, assembled a very expensive, ageing squad. They're in financial difficulty at the moment, and they don't have a lot to sell. Lucas Ocampos, one of those who could be on the move, who was very instrumental in that Europa League final, could end up in the Premier League with Fulham, actually, in the next little while. So even though it's a big name, Arsenal got to be happy with that. Johan Bakayoko, the best player of PSV, he could be on the move to the Premier League before the end of this competition, even though they put Rangers away in very convincing style. And they lost their best player, Xavi Simons, who I've no idea why PSG didn't hold on to him, but he's doing great things at Leipzig already. And Lens, this is becoming a bit of a theme, really. Only 1 point behind PSG in the league last season, but lost both their best players, Sekou Fofana and Lois Openda, to Leipzig, though they did bring in a striker, Eli Wahi, who West Ham really wanted. And if they'd have managed to sell Lucas Paquetá, he'd be playing in the Premier League now. So he's one to watch in this group. OK, Group C, which is Real Madrid's group. What about this one? I mean, talking of players who might fit elsewhere, I guess the one player who would make Real Madrid be what they really want to be at the moment, probably Victor Osimhen. But no one can afford him. Aurelio De Laurentiis set him at an absolutely huge figure, approaching 200 million euros, so he's not going anywhere for this summer. Napoli are going to be really strong again. Real Madrid, we've seen what an incredible start Jude Bellingham's had to life there, even picking up the goal-scoring slack of Karim Benzema leaving. Braga, be careful about them, because they did really well to get through the group under their coach Artur Jorge, and the Orta brothers playing really well for them in those 2 games against Panathinaikos. Best ever points tally, best ever goal-scoring tally in the Portuguese Liga last season. And at Union Berlin, Leonardo Bonucci is on his way to sign for them at the moment. As they saw with the Isco deal, it's not inked until it's inked. Signed some very experienced, very good players, including Robin Gosens, who nearly scored that equaliser right at the end of the Champions League final against Manchester City. And they're going to be playing their games at their rival Hertha's Olympiastadion. 80,000, absolutely cavernous. They can never fill it, Hertha. They sold out all 3 home games in a day.
Wow. Wow. All right, Group D. This is Inter's group, if I'm right. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. And Inter looking to get back towards the final stages of the competition again. And I think they're going to be pretty pleased with that. Benfica, very, very strong in winning the Portuguese Liga last season. They have recruited Angel Di Maria. It'd be interesting seeing him, former Juventus player, who'll get hot reception when he goes back to the San Siro. By far the greatest player in the Portuguese league and still a brilliant player at 35. They have lost Gonçalo Ramos to PSG after that hat-trick in the World Cup against Switzerland, of course. RB Salzburg lost their coach, Matthias Jessler, to the Saudi Pro League. We've not seen a lot of coaches go to the Saudi Pro League. He's the big, young superstar coach who's gone to the Saudi Pro League. So not quite at their strongest as they have been in previous seasons with Holland, Szoboszlai, players like that. Real Sociedad, they've got some really interesting attacking players under Emmanuel, so maybe they could push to that second place. Andre Silva, who's done some stuff at some of Europe's biggest clubs, he's just turned up there on loan.
Right, let's look at Celtic's group, Group E, and see how this one shapes up.
Again, I'm not sure there are too many gremlins in this for Celtic. Big names, no doubt about it. Feyenoord had a quite patchy start to the season, defending champions in the Eredivisie, of course. Still got Arne Slot, the coach, which is their biggest win of the season. And, of course, Diego Simeone, still at Atletico Madrid. But apart from that, all the names at Atletico are exactly what you'd expect because they're another one of these big Spanish clubs. We've got absolutely no room for manoeuvre in the transfer market. They're the favourites to win this group, there's no doubt about that, but they absolutely bombed and finished in fourth place in a very gettable group last season. So they've got to reprove themselves again in Europe. Lazio, 2 games, 2 defeats in Serie A this season. Maurizio Sarri, not a happy camper at all since he lost his best midfielder and his best player, Sergej Milinkovic-Savic.
Right, I'm going to enjoy this. Group F, Newcastle's group. Look at that.
We're all going to enjoy this. There's no doubt about it. PSG, of course, under reconstruction to a certain extent. Kylian Mbappe stays. We know that. But what is that front three going to be? Does Kolo Muani end up being there? We know Bradley Barcola, a really fine young player who Chelsea were interested in, has come across to the Parc des Princes. He's signing today. Borussia Dortmund look quite clunky and dysfunctional post-Bellingham, even though they've got some interesting players in. Marcel Sabitzer, he's there now. Felix Metscher, who came through the Manchester City Academy. And it looks like they're signing last season's joint Bundesliga top scorer, Niklas Füllkrug, who's expected to arrive there in the next day or so. Milan, mini rebuild there as well. Good start to the season for Christian Pulisic. But is he quite at that level who's really going to crack the Champions League? Newcastle have got a chance in this group. You look at the names are absolutely huge, but I honestly think they could do something here. And remember that third place, because this is the last ever Champions League group stage. You know, you're going to have this massive reformatting. So Eddie Howe, maybe if you can't get them in the top 2, get them third, and it could be something pretty spectacular next spring.
But as you say, there'll be special nights at St James's Park.
So special.
Really, really special. Group G, Manchester City. Pep Guardiola here, who's just been named UEFA's Coach of the Year. No surprise, I'm hearing in my ear. And Erling Haaland, Player of the Year as well for UEFA. So, the holders, Man City, will they be happy with their group?
They will, but that look on Guardiola's face, he's looking at the trophy saying, oh no, not you again. And he's saying that to RB Leipzig too. I think they are one of these teams who are doing a rebuild that they didn't really expect. A little bit like Liverpool with their midfield. But they lost their 4 best players this summer. They lost Nkunku to Chelsea. They lost Gvardiol. They lost Szoboszlai. And then they lost Konrad Laimer to Bayern as well. That number 6 that they need is already in their midst. But we talked about Xavi Simons earlier. Arrived, really, really looks the part already. Lois Openda, they're playing some very nice football under Marco Rosa. So those are the 2 favourites for the group, quite comfortably. Remember, of course, Nkunku scored a hat-trick at the Etihad, if we go back to one of their previous recent meetings.
Yeah, he did.
Red Star Belgrade, I think, are quite interesting because I think you look at Barrett Bakar, the coach, incredible history. Recent history of trophies in Israel, and because his Maccabi Haifa side, who beat Juventus last season, so let's not underrate them at all. I think he knocked out Red Star Belgrade as well in the qualifiers, so that's why they went and got him. And remember, there's that incredibly long tunnel of the Maracanã, so if Manchester City want to get to the pitch on time, they'd probably better start now. Young boys, not as strong as they have been in previous years under Rafael Vicky, but they swatted Maccabi Haifa aside in the playoffs. Right,
last group, Group H. We've got to whiz through this one, Andy.
Right, we really will. OK, Shakhtar, they're looking pretty weak compared to previous years. It's been really tough for them in wartime. Toby Alderweireld's Royal Antwerp in this competition for the first time in over half a century. Porto, not flash, but always tough to beat under Sergio Conceição, and they'll put a few kicks on that Barcelona side, trust me.
And we never know who's going to be in the Barcelona side because they don't know who they can register. Andy, excellent. Thank you very much.